I think it's perfectly within reason to state that there's a lot of compare and contrast topics out there on video games. They're either floating around on forums, they're floating around on YouTube videos, or they are floating around at gaming conventions or meets. You can find this pretty much anywhere. People like to pick through the best of the best, compare a video game to one another, and see how it stacks up. Maybe it's for fun, maybe it's for fanboyism, but you will always find differing elements to this. You will find flagship characters pitted up against one another. You might find a video game in a specific genre that reinvented the wheel only to find out that the ripoff actually expanded on things that the reinvented game didn't. You might find a game that's completely just compared to another game just because it's the same genre on its own merits. There's a lot of comparisons going on, and the most popular right now, the two games that seem to be burning up certain gaming forums and circles as a hot topic, the two Clash of the Titans, seem to be Horizon Zero Dawn versus Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, I'm going to get into my overall verdict. I'm going to get into why these games are being compared. I'm going to go into depth about it. I'm going to tell you what I think about the gameplay of both these games and overall what I find more interesting than the other. So, let's get into it. Hopefully, this will be a super fun video to do. Now, let's get into the first key point here, and that's the fact of why are people making these comparisons between Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda Breath of the Wild? And the reason is because people are just generalizing them and lumping them into the same category as just a role-playing game, even though Zelda has elements that are very akin to its predecessors, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But Horizon Zero Dawn is an action RPG. That is undisputed. That is what the developers named it as. But Zelda Breath of the Wild is an action open-air adventure, whatever that means from Nintendo, but it's definitely an adventure game. A more proper comparison would be an adventure sandbox hybrid, since both games seem to be going for this. Both games are open, both games have a vast and large world to it where you can explore and do various things. So that's the first misconception out of the way. For the second segment, we are going to be talking about the compare and contrast section to Zelda Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn, and the first thing we're talking about is graphics. No contest. Horizon Zero Dawn looks incredible. The game looks amazing for what they're doing with this game. How the graphics look, how the main character's hair just flows in the wind, how you can see particle effects. It is beautiful. That game is beautiful. Zelda has a great art style, but it's just not enough to stack up against Horizon, and everyone already knows this. The realistic art style just brings out a lot more to the table than the art style that Zelda Breath of the Wild is using. While Zelda looks beautiful, it looks beautiful, don't get me wrong, Horizon is just on a whole nother level. The more you look into this, the more you will realize that the Decima engine was a great investment for Guerrilla Games. Horizon just feels a lot more lively than Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is a shame, because they could have did a lot with that art style with Zelda, but Horizon just brings out so many minute details, so many minute animations and movements that feel lifelike and very realistic. You just can't go on this point without mentioning how impressive Guerrilla Games is on their graphics, so I have to give the point to Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, the gameplay portion is going to be a lot harder to distinguish which is the best, because obviously I have not played either of these games. I'm just basing my opinion on what I saw. So let's start off with Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, Breath of the Wild looks nice. It looks really nice. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna discredit that game because the exploration seems to be the main focus, but I do have some lingering problems and nitpicks with it too. And one of my problems is the fact that there doesn't seem to be enough enemy density, so there seems to be like a lack of stuff to go up against, which, I mean, in certain games that's okay before the next encounter, but it doesn't seem to be a lot going on in terms of the action. Now, when we dial it back to the exploration, there's a lot of stuff to find, so it seems to be just a weird mingling of things going on where you find all this stuff, but if there's rarely anything to fight, then what's the point of having all these weapons, having all this stuff, and having somewhat of an advantage? Now, I will give Breath of the Wild credit. The game looks difficult. It looks hard. People were getting their asses kicked in the demos, and I like a challenge. Challenge is good. Challenge is always nice and welcome. Compared to Horizon, I fear that game is probably going to be too easy for its own good because of the mechanics involved. So I think that in regards to challenge, Zelda might have the advantage because Horizon seems to be all about crafting, making weapons, having all this stuff in regards to your skill set, which enhances your character, but it might make the game a little bit too easy, and the enemies don't seem to be the smartest in Horizon Zero Dawn. So that is a red dot on Horizon Zero Dawn's back. It seems to be like the game is going to be too easy eventually in regards to how you manage things. I hope there still is challenge, but there's a lot more to do in Horizon Zero Dawn for what I see. You can take parts from certain enemies, you can make new weapons. Because of the fact that you can do all these varied things in Horizon Zero Dawn, you can command any of the enemies in the game to be like your personal pets and go around and attack other machines, etc. And they have a lot of weapons. They have a giant weapon wheel. They have the fact that you can go around the world in certain parts of the environment with machine heavy enemies, and you can go around and get certain stuff and gears to level up your character. That is probably going to keep the gameplay a lot more diverse. So I think that I have to give the slight edge to Horizon Zero Dawn, but I do fear some things, and if the game is not challenging enough, it's going to be a problem around launch. For the final point, this is not a video created to dissuade you over buying one over the other. I am simply stating my reasons why I like Horizon just a little bit more, but I do have issues with it as well. I think that Breath of the Wild is going to be probably one of the best exclusives on launch when it comes to the Nintendo Switch lineup. And I definitely think that is going to be a game worth watching out for Zelda fans, but for me personally, I am more invested into seeing how a new IP turns out. I like seeing new, fresh, innovative, and varied things on the table, something that's ambitious over something that's previously established. I'm sure they probably will do a good job with Zelda, like I said. Both the combat for both games are your standard fare, so they really didn't impress me in either regard. I just hope it turns out well. What you want is dependent on your own actions and opinions, and I'm pretty sure that both of these games, they have some lingering problems and answers that I want answered eventually. Horizon doesn't seem to be perfect, and neither does Breath of the Wild, but I'm pretty sure that people already put the money down as Zelda fans for Breath of the Wild. They probably already spent that $360, which is probably gonna equate to that much for that one killer app, but I hope that it's the most shining example of quality for their first party games, and Nintendo usually puts in a lot of effort for their first party games anyway, so they have that going for them, whereas Guerrilla Games has a grease spot on their record with Killzone. Unfortunately, the story for those games haven't been the most impressive, which is why they went out of their way to hire a writer from Fallout New Vegas. Hopefully that goes well for them too. So I don't know anything else to say on this subject until I get my hands on some gameplay, get my hands on some demos, and judge for myself. But I will say I am looking forward to Horizon Zero Dawn just a little bit more, and I don't know how I feel about Breath of the Wild until it actually comes out, and the same goes for our Metal Dinosaur ass kicker. So this is Renegade Operative signing off. I am going to probably do some other stuff, upload some other things, podcasts, movie reactions, all this stuff on the TCP channel. I got a lot going on, so remember to like, comment, and tell me what you prefer over Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I will see you next time. Later.